It's hard to recall what drove me to venture deeper into the woods than I ever had before. Perhaps it was a sense of boredom, or a desire to prove my courage in the familiar territory of my backyard. I had spent my entire life in that mountain house, surrounded by dense forests and steep valleys that seemed to stretch endlessly. I had always kept to the well-trodden trails near our cottage. But that night, something inexplicable tugged at me. The sky, a canvas of fading orange, was quickly being swallowed by the encroaching darkness. I armed myself with a flashlight, a jacket, and bear spray, because even though I felt brave, I wasn't stupid. The forest was a realm of lurking dangers where bears and deer roamed freely. The trees, tall and imposing, seemed to swallow sound, and the cold had a way of numbing your instincts. I followed the slope behind our house down into the valley, brushing past thick pine branches and ducking under limbs. I knew the trail well at first, then it became mossy rock and overgrown roots. I kept going. 20 minutes in, I realized how quiet it had become. Not in a peaceful way either, just wrong. There was an unsettling absence of sound. No birds chirping, no critters rustling in the underbrush. Just the steady rhythm of my boots and the sound of my breath. My flashlight cut through the darkness like a knife, but everything beyond its narrow beam felt unnaturally still. I reached the creek that curved around our property, a silvery line of water threading through the trees. That's when I saw it. Garbage, an old tin can, a rusted cooking pot. A torn sleeping bag lay twisted as if it had been dragged across the ground. 2 shoes, one upright, one collapsed on its side. They looked waterlogged. I paused. My first thought was that someone had been camping out here, maybe even living rough. It wouldn't be unheard of. The forest stretches for miles. Someone desperate enough could hide out here for weeks and never be seen. I stood there for a while, just scanning the area with my flashlight. The beam caught the edge of something else, something I didn't register at first, like a darkened patch of tree bark that didn't belong. But it was probably nothing, just a shadow. I turned back. The walk home started fine. My legs were tired, and it was pitch black now, so dark that I had to concentrate hard to keep the light steady on the trail ahead. I kept glancing back over my shoulder. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just disturbed something I shouldn't have, like I'd opened a door by walking past that campsite. About 6 minutes into my return hike, I heard it, a sharp, heavy crack, a branch behind me. I froze, every muscle tensed. I turned slowly, shining the flashlight behind me. Nothing. The forest was a blur of vertical black trunks and tangled brush. My light swept over branches, rocks, and space. Then I heard it again, faster this time. Crunch, snap, footsteps, running. Before I could process it, I was running too. Not thinking and just sprinting. Something primal took over, and it screamed, "Go!" I kept the flashlight aimed forward, but my hands were shaking so badly the beam danced all over the place. The terrain was uneven, with roots jutting out like traps and stones rolling beneath the feet. I yelled out, pleading, "Stop! Please stop!" My voice cracked as I ran. Whatever it wasn't stopping. It was gaining. The sound of branches being violently torn, footsteps pounding closer, and a guttural, angry grunt. It wasn't the sound of a person breathing. It was too deep, like an animal with a voice box that didn't fit. Hot tears streamed down my face from the cold wind and the panic. The way it moved, the sound it made, felt wrong. Too fast, too loud. It was a clear message. I was being hunted. The fear was palpable, the desperation overwhelming. Hot tears mixed with the cold wind and panic as the sound of the way it moved felt wrong. Too fast, too loud. Like it wanted me to know I was being hunted. It wasn't stealthy. It wasn't stalking. It was chasing to catch. The fear was palpable, the desperation overwhelming. I was running for my life, every step a desperate plea for safety. It wasn't stealthy. It wasn't stalking. It was chasing to catch. The path narrowed near a cluster of boulders. I almost slipped climbing over them, my flashlight catching only glimpses of the trail ahead. My legs burned, my chest hurt. I kept screaming, maybe out of desperation or some hope that it might scare whatever was behind me. The fear was palpable, the desperation overwhelming. Then I heard it slip. A violent grunt. Something fell hard. Branches snapped, and then silence. I didn't wait. I tore through the woods, lungs on fire, ignoring the needles that whipped my arms and face. The light of home came into view, our porch lights barely glowing between the trees like distant stars. I hit the property line, and for the first time, I dared to stop. The relief was overwhelming, the fear still lingering. I turned around slowly, raising the flashlight back toward the woods. And that's when I saw him. A figure standing at the edge of the woods, barely touched by the beam of my flashlight. The dread was suffocating, the terror absolute. He was standing about 100 yards back, just at the edge of where the trees begin again. The beam barely touched him, but it was enough. A tall man, no pants. His hoodie was torn and soaked to the bottom, hanging over long, pale legs that looked almost raw in the light. He wasn't moving, he was watching. Arms slack at his sides. I couldn't make out his face. The shadows clung to him like wet cloth. I stood frozen. Then he moved. He sprinted, not like a normal person. He dropped low, arms and legs bending unnaturally, and started lunging forward, using the trees to pull himself faster, grabbing at the ground, almost spider-like. Every motion was explosive, violent. I didn't even scream. I just ran. I vaulted over our fence without thinking. Behind me, I could hear his guttural exhale, like a dog about to bite down. I threw myself across the yard, every nerve in my body screaming. My legs barely worked by the time I reached the porch, fumbled the door open, and slammed it shut behind me. Everything went quiet. I turned off the lights and crept toward the window, flashlight still shaking in my grip. My breath fogged the glass. Then I saw him again. He was standing right at the fence, looking at the house, waving. His arm rose unnaturally high, slow and puppet-like. His hand flopped limply with each movement. He didn't speak, just stared. He was so tall I could see his head over the 6-foot fence, his silhouette stretched and boneless. I stepped back from the window, shaking. I locked every door, every window, woke my dad up in a panic. I told him everything, but I don't remember how he responded, if he took it seriously or thought some drifter just freaked me out. But no one ever found the man. No one ever found the sleeping bag or the garbage near the creek either. I never walked back there again. Sometimes I still hear footsteps in the woods late at night. I'll be brushing my teeth or standing at the window, and the sound drifts out of the trees. Not footsteps on the ground, footsteps hitting bark, like something climbing or waiting for someone else to walk just a little too far.